Credit cards have been a powerful tool that have allowed me to travel in style more frequently and have allowed me to experience things that wouldn't be possible if it weren't for credit card points. But at the same time, I think there are some very big misconceptions about how credit cards should operate and how you should use them positively instead of negatively. So in this video, I'm going to discuss 5 harsh truths that have become common misconceptions in our society, but are really important concepts that we need to understand. The first harsh truth about credit cards is that there is no one size fits all or objective answer when it comes to the credit card landscape. When I tell people that one of my biggest hobbies is credit card points and I have this YouTube channel where I make videos about this topic, one of the first things that people always ask me is, what credit cards do you recommend and what credit card should I get? I really wish it was that simple because it would make all of our jobs much easier in terms of objectively knowing which credit cards are best. However, there is never a one size fits all approach when it comes to the credit card game. And typically when I get those questions, I have no other context on their spending or travel preferences. So I have no way of knowing which credit card I would recommend. And that's simply because there's no singular best credit card that works best for everyone, regardless of what their situations are, or the same advice that I would give any two people. In reality, there are a lot of different factors that could play into this. So what their spending or travel preferences look like, what stage that they're at in their own individual credit card journey, their frequency of travel, and also what loyalty they might have to specific travel brands. As an example, I've gotten the question of what credit card should I get from people who have just graduated from college, so maybe have either 0 credit cards right now or maybe just 1. And I've also gotten that same question from people who are in their 30s and have 4 to 5 credit cards. But again, there's simply just not one credit card that works best for everyone. And sometimes people just have different experiences in terms of what credit cards they actually even get approved for, and maybe some other cards they get rejected for. Sometimes which credit card you should get, at least in terms of airport lounge access, just depends on your home airport. Because if you live in Dallas or Denver, then the Venture X could make sense, since there's Capital One lounges in those locations. But if you live in LA or Seattle, then maybe you should go with the Amex Platinum because there's Centurion lounges in those locations. How you travel matters a lot as well in terms of whether you typically travel solo or you're traveling with multiple people with you, like with your family, because the Amex Platinum could make a lot of sense for you if you're traveling solo as your luxury travel card. But if you travel with other people, so like your +1 or with a family, then the Amex Platinum probably isn't going to make as much sense just due to the lounge restrictions. I'm needing to pay for additional guests to go into those lounges with you when there are plenty of other credit cards that are out there that still give you competitive lounge access but are a lot more simple and straightforward to utilize. The second harsh truth about credit cards is that the coolest credit cards are usually not actually the best. When you think of the most hyped up credit cards or the ones that people always talk about, what typically comes to mind? My guess is that you've probably seen or heard about the American Express Platinum and associated it with a credit card that's going to give you a tremendous amount of value. Maybe you've seen the Capital One lady in commercials and seen the Venture X advertised as a good card to get as well. Or maybe you just come from a Chase family or you're associated with a bunch of other people who love Chase, and so the Chase Sapphire Reserve is seen as the best card to get. The problem is, especially for a card like the Amex Platinum, it's really easy to fall into the cool trap where you just get the card because you think it's going to give you the most amount of value, without actually doing an equation yourself on how much value you'd actually be able to get and whether the card actually makes sense. Since there's so much demand for a card like the Amex Platinum, it's really easy for American Express to make changes, sometimes negative, to that card without some people even noticing that anything changed at all. Plus, in a lot of cases, the higher the annual fee for a particular credit card, the more homework that you're going to have personally to take a hands-on approach and understand the benefits and credits on that card and make sure that you're actively managing those benefits so that you're getting enough value to justify those high fees. The takeaway here is to not go after those really popular, highly sought after credit cards and blindly think that they're going to give the most amount of value without understanding if it actually will for your own situation. Because again, it's all about understanding your own situation and what preferences that you have, because there could be more underrated credit cards like the US Bank Altitude Reserve, co-branded cards like the Hilton Aspire or Marriott Bonvoy Brilliant, or maybe even an airline card like the Delta Reserve that could make more sense for you just given what your travel or spending preferences look like. The third harsh truth about credit cards is that intangible benefits don't really exist. So a lot of people, including myself sometimes, refer to benefits like elevated statuses or airport lounge access as intangible benefits. However, I would actually make the argument that there is no such thing as an intangible benefit, because even if it's not a credit that has a specific value, Every benefit has a value that can be computed. As an example, let's take a look at a card like the Amex Platinum and talk about how we can tangibly value the airport lounge access on that card. Airport lounge access can be super nice in terms of having a cozy place to get some work done before your flight, and also getting free food and drink that you would have otherwise had to pay for if you weren't at that lounge. For me personally, I organically value benefits at how those benefits replace the amount of money that I would have otherwise needed to spend if I didn't have that benefit. So if I needed to eat at the airport, I'd probably end up conservatively spending about $20. Obviously, that's a generalization, and some people might spend more, some people might spend less, but in general, that's probably about an average. Then if, let's say, you travel about 10 times per year, whether for personal travel or for work trips, or maybe a combination of the both. And then for the sake of this example, let's say that you had airport lounge access on your Amex Platinum for both ends of the trip. Then if we put that all together, that's about 20 lounge visits per year. And if you value lounge access at your organic value of $20 per trip, then you're looking at a tangible value of $400 from the lounge access on a card like the Amex Platinum. Things like elevated statuses for hotel brands are also frequently referred to as intangible benefits, but I would make the argument that even these have a specific tangible value. To provide some personal examples, I wanted to talk about the last two bigger trips that I had, where I stayed at a Hilton property and I got a specific amount of value from my Hilton Gold status. One was during my honeymoon when we stayed at the Waldorf Astoria in Cancun, and then one was when we were in Panama earlier this year and stayed at the Hilton Panama. For the first example, we actually utilized a Hilton Free Night Award for a one-night stay at the Waldorf in Cancun. Originally, we had booked a standard room at the property, but upon checking in, we were given an upgrade to a swim-up suite room with a private pool due to my Gold status, which was an added minimum of $300 in value. In addition to that, with my Gold status, we also got free breakfast for two, which is one of the nicest meals that I've ever had at a hotel and a fantastic breakfast. And I had a chance to actually take a look at the receipt when we were done ordering, and it would have been over $100 if we wouldn't have got that free with my Gold status. Adding those two benefits up, and this trip back in 2023 would have given my Hilton Gold status a value of $400. On my next big trip with a Hilton property stay, earlier this year, we stayed at the Hilton Panama, and due to my Hilton Gold status, we were upgraded from a standard city view room to a premium ocean view room. Over our 3-night stay, this upgrade gave us about $200 in value, and then you can tack on at least another $100 in value for the free breakfast that we got for all 3 days due to my status as well. Obviously, I'm not always going to get significant room upgrades or luxurious free breakfast on every hotel stay, but even though elevated statuses are thought of in a more intangible way, just saying that these benefits are intangible benefits, in my opinion, is just the easy way out, because every single benefit has a specific tangible value. The fourth terrible truth about credit cards is that your credit cards and your points should not dictate how you travel. What I mean by this is that your credit card strategy should always work backwards from your own travel and spending preferences in terms of getting credit cards that best align with those preferences. Where this harsh truth comes into play is that you should not get credit cards that might make you travel more often than what you're comfortable with, or maybe even travel to places that aren't top priorities, but you're just traveling there because it makes the most sense with your card benefits. As a personal example, I've actually dealt with this a decent amount recently with Hilton credit cards. This might come as a bit of a surprise to some of you because I have been a strong advocate for Hilton credit cards over the past couple of years, and I would say that I still am to an extent. But I have dealt with this harsh truth where I had it backwards and Hilton credit cards started to dictate where I wanted to travel. Essentially, over the past couple of years, a lot of my travel has been focused on going to Spanish-speaking countries, and Hilton actually hasn't had the best options for me. Marriott's been a lot better in terms of footprint in those areas. What this has led to is I'll literally just go on the Hilton app and I'll type in places, some of which aren't even places that were at the top of places I wanted to travel to, but I'll just figure out where there's nice Hilton properties, and then I'll start to reframe that in my mind on wanting to go to those places just because there's a nice Hilton there. The reason that this is a problem is that I do have a limited amount of PTO with my current 9-to-5 job, so I should always prioritize the top places that I want to travel to without any other variables, and the credit cards that I get should just adapt to that. Obviously, this isn't always a problem. There are plenty of super nice Hilton properties out there and plenty of times where I can go to an area that I want to travel to where there is a Hilton property there. But the mistake is making Hilton the #1 priority and my travel plans the #2 priority, when in reality it should be the reverse. And so that's why I'm shifting a little bit more towards Marriott in the future, because Marriott can adapt to my own travel habits the most. Credit card harsh truth number 5 is that credit cards can cause lifestyle inflation. What this means is that sometimes it's hard to not want to spend more money to maximize certain benefits or credits, even if that spending is going outside of what you would normally spend, so outside of your organic spending. One of the first things that you probably think of when it comes to credit cards and lifestyle inflation is Amex constantly increasing annual fees while also adding additional benefits and credits that you feel like you have to maximize. This is a clear-cut example of potential lifestyle inflation because first of all, you're now paying a higher annual fee than what you had originally signed up for. But even more importantly, a lot of times those credits are going to be split up into monthly, quarterly, or semi-annual increments, which makes it really easy to spend past the allotted amount. As a personal example for how credit cards can sometimes cause lifestyle inflation, I'm someone who goes from welcome bonus to try to maximize my return on spend. However, what sometimes happens is that I'm chasing multiple welcome offers all at once because they're so enticing, and that causes me to go outside of my organic spending to hit those spend requirements. What I then end up needing to do is pay rent with one of those credit cards that I'm working towards a welcome bonus on, and then in doing so, I end up unnecessarily paying an additional 3% fee instead of just using my Bilt card to have 0 fees. Additionally, one of the best benefits on credit cards is that they open up the doors for new travel experiences and allow you to travel much more often than you originally would have been able to. However, this can be a double-edged sword because even though credit card points can help you cover some of your biggest, most major travel expenses, there is no such thing as free travel. Even if credit card points can help you pay for your hotel and your flight, you still need to pay for your food and your experiences and your other daily expenses. So you could make the argument that traveling more because of credit card points can still contribute to lifestyle inflation and make you spend more money than you were already planning on. And if you do really care about that, then one recommendation that I have for you is have your credit card points cover your major expenses, so your flight and your hotel, and then travel to an area like Southeast Asia or Latin America that once you get there, it becomes really cheap in terms of having your money go pretty far and being able to experience a lot of things for not too much money. But if you enjoyed this video, then I think you'll enjoy this other video where I went over 5 hidden clues that you have the wrong credit cards. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace.